Welcome to Stay Fearless, the FSP podcast with all things baseball performance. I am your co-host and co-founder of Fearless Sports Performance, Joey Hanley.
And I'm your co-host and co-founder, Dr. Alex Acevedo, and welcome to another episode of the pod.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Stay Fearless, the Fearless Sports Performance podcast. Today we are joined by Payton Alexander. Payton played ball at Loyola University New Orleans, where he etched his name all over the Loyola record books during one of the best careers in program history. Those accolades include second in home runs all time, second in RBIs all time, second in runs all time, second in triples all time, third in hits all time, and third in stolen bases all time, seventh in doubles all time, and eighth in batting average all time. He also racked up first and second team all conference selections, a Conference Player of the Year award, an All-American Honorable Mention selection, and a Dr. Leroy Walker Champions of Character Award, which is one of the most prestigious awards in the NAIA, awarded to the baseball player that embodies core values, athletic achievement, and academic success most successfully in the nation. Now Payton is taking on medical school. Payton is a natural leader, a relentless worker, and one of the best humans and friends I've ever known. Payton, I couldn't be more excited to have you on and share your experiences and insights with our listeners.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be great, man. So obviously you were incredible at Loyola, putting together one of the best careers in program history. Tell me about your college baseball experience, your routines, your mindset, and what made you so successful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that, it was a lot of ups and downs, it was a lot of my baseball experience, not just at the collegiate level, but, kind of growing up. And it was a really, really, really big roller coaster, I would say. In high school, wasn't the biggest kid, didn't really hit for power, didn't really hit a lot of home runs. So I wasn't really extremely heavily recruited out of high school. And I felt like I had a huge chip on my shoulder, like going into my senior year. Thankfully, I mean, Loyola was only one of two official offers that I had in high school, the other one being a junior college. And I picked the New Orleans route mostly because of the initial culture we had. And it was like, I knew I wanted to go to medical school at some point in my life. And I knew that Loyola's academic program would kind of set me up best for that. And so I was kind of more so thinking for my career after baseball with that decision, but it ended up being such a phenomenal athletic decision as well. And it didn't really come to fruition until kind of those last couple of years that we played together. And, coming in my freshman year and kind of where the program was at in my head, it was like, I want to be the guy. I want to be able to perform. I want to play as a freshman. And, as an 18-year-old coming in with all the distractions that New Orleans had and kind of how our team was really set up, that it wasn't necessarily focused on baseball. I didn't really have a huge professional mindset, and it was kind of, I wanted to enjoy college, and enjoy the nightlife of New Orleans that a lot of programs don't necessarily have. I mean, I know a lot of the listeners probably can think of New Orleans and you think of Bourbon Street and the nightlife and sports and everything like that. And so kind of as I matured age-wise, the biggest thing for me where it kind of shifted in mindset was when I was able to mature mentally, and on the back end, the last 3 years, starting in 2020, when Coach Kennedy and Bruce arrived, and it was all about how do you become a professional on and off the baseball field. And that kind of helped me not only improve my academics as a subset of it, but it was like I was more in tune with my body and what I needed to do to be ready and what I needed to do to be successful at that school, and within our program, it was like your personal success was a subset of your professionalism and how the team kind of meshed and everything like that. And so it was all over the place from really bad down in the dumps to highs of the highs were and out away from the NAIA World Series. And so we were able to experience a lot, from going, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it was like 3-19, 20 something in conference, I think, the year before Coach Kennedy and Bruce arrived. And then it was like the next year, the best year that we had in program, and of course got cut short with the pandemic and everything. And it was like, that was kind of the huge like stepping stone for us. It was great that not only showed what this program was capable of, but it also kind of allowed us to kind of break out of our shell, and become a team that wasn't really the laughing stock anymore, but it was someone to a force to be reckoned with. And so it was, I mean, the best way I can explain it's a roller coaster experience, man. You saw the lows of the lows and you got a taste of the highs, and it was something that I wish I could go back. Being 2 years out, it's like I'd give up everything I have right now to go slide at second base one more time and get dirty one more time. It's like you don't really realize how much you love something until it's gone, and I sit back and look at games like that we played that are still on YouTube, like maybe once or twice a month, just to like kind of relive it. And so that tells me right there how big of an impact it had on my life. And I know, and I hope that I was able to kind of impact the guys around me and kind of give them a sense of pride of how we left that program.
Yeah, definitely, man. It was a blast, and those last couple of years that I was there, your last few years, were really a special experience, man. And being able to do what we did and turn around the program, and I think a big part of it that made it so special wasn't just that we turned around the program and won. And this might be kind of why we were able to do that, but the people that we did it with, I think we had a really, really special group, really awesome group of guys. We were real close. And everybody really meshed well, and we really were working towards something greater than ourselves. I felt like everybody really cared about their brothers. They were going out there to perform for their brothers. That was real special.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really a performance based thing. That was kind of the big like culture shift for us. It was like we didn't measure our success based on numbers, and that was the huge thing that we needed to do. And we were so privileged to have a group of upperclassmen that kind of led by example, and that was the biggest thing that whenever I remember Coach Bruce and Coach Kennedy came in, it's like, you need to buy in yourself first. And that was, I think, how we had so much success. It was like with the 40 guys that were on that program, obviously you're going to have some bad apples everywhere, but the guys that continuously contributed to that success 1000% bought into everything that the two guys at the helm placed for us. And they did such a phenomenal job of laying out the groundwork of everything that we needed to do. And if you do this the right way, you're going to succeed. And having that mentality of everybody just being completely bought in, it was like, I know this guy's been working his butt off. I know he's going to get the job done, and that sort of confidence came from kind of buying into that process that Coach Kennedy and Bruce set for us. And being around that atmosphere was so infectious. And it was like, there is not a human being, yeah, this guy might be struggling, but I know he's working to get out of it. And it was like, there's never really guys pinned against each other. You're going to have competition. That's how you get better, And so it was really cool to see not just the fact that it turned around. I think for me, how quickly it was to turn around, and the year that we made the national tournament for the first time. And we got our butts beat. Like, we weren't ready for it. We were expecting, we were the one seed we were hosting. We were like, oh, we'll run through this. We'll get to the World Series easily. And we went, we lost game one and then backs against the wall, but seeing our athletic director, the smile he had on his face and the smile that really everybody in the athletic department had on their face after the fact, even though we just blanked the opening round, we're hosting, we have to watch someone else dogpile on our field. The fact that we were able to turn around a program so quickly, it just meant it seeing how much it meant to everybody around us, it's kind of what made it worthwhile, regardless of the fact that our season's over, we're never going to play with guys ever again. We need a different team. But it was so fun to be a part of, man.
Yeah, it really was, man. And it was such a special year because, it was one of, if not the fastest program turnaround in NAIA history. And it was really fun to be a part of. And I think, like I had just said, like the thing that made it so special was the people that we did it with from top to bottom. I felt like everybody on our team was pulling in the right direction. We all really were close. We loved each other. It was a really special group, and not just the guys on the team, but the coaching staff, the athletic department. I felt like everybody involved really was pulling in the right direction, really wanted to see that change happen. And we all kind of envisioned it. And then it just took kind of us earning our own respect and then going out there, doing the work, putting everything in and going out there and making it happen, and kind of seeing our kind of the dreams and the visions that we had all come together. It made it all worth it. It was so special to be part of that and see everything we had talked about and more come to reality. Because I mean, I had high ambitions, but to turn around a program that quickly and get as far as we did, that was really special, really, really awesome part of it.
It's cool to see that, like, that's the norm of Loyola baseball now. I mean, they made a run again this year. They went to Kentucky and they faced a really good Cumberland's team that hits the crap out of the baseball. We had the privilege of seeing, Steven Still, like, as a freshman, come in and everything that he's been able to accomplish, and seeing how much he's grown mentally and how much of a better pitcher that's made him too. And it's cool to sit back and see it from a third person perspective, that culture has kind of continued on after us. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for any more. It's like, how do you define, like, success of the career when, like, people ask me that? And it's like, look at what our program's doing now. Look at where it was whenever we got there and look at where it is now. And it's like, the national tournament, getting to the World Series is now expected. It's not a hope. It's not a wish. It's not a dream. It's like, we're going to get there. We're going to bust our tail to get there. And being able to feel like we had such a huge role in that is so gratifying. And, that's when people ask, it's like, what's the best thing that happened in college? It's like seeing the powerhouse that Loyola has become now. And it's like, instead of a team coming into New Orleans and pretty much having an off weekend because they get to play us, they get to throw off because we're not going to score runs, we're going to give up 15 runs, our team ERA is 9.5, and our batting average is borderline below the Mendoza line. And now it's like, you've got three guys on the top of the lineup that are over 350, one that's over 415. You've got your one and your two that have a sub-2 ERA, and it's like, these dudes are legit, and it's no longer a cupcake weekend for anybody. Whether you're coming to New Orleans or whether they're going to you, it's like, you're going to get an absolute dogfight that weekend, and that's just so awesome to see.
Yeah, man, it's really cool to kind of have been part of that and see, because I remember my freshman year coming in. This moment, I've talked about it before on the podcast, and it was a very profound moment for me. Very, like, left an impact on me. I remember my freshman year, we lost a game in the conference tournament. And one of the seniors, I was pretty pissed about it. Said something along the lines of, like, man, we can be better than this. Like, we have talent, we have, potential. And one of the seniors was like, hey, this is Loyola. Like, get rid of your expectations. Like, it's not going to happen. It'll never happen here. And I mean, I guess, my personality is the type of person that fueled me even more to be like, nah, like, I'm going to find a way to change this and we're going to be better. And I'm going to get everybody on the same boat. But
yeah.
I remember that was such an impactful moment for me because it made me so mad. And now looking back and knowing, like, all right, like, I was right. I wasn't delusional, and we did something, and being able to kind of look back and be like, man, like, that we really did do it. It's special, man. It's really cool. Like, it's an experience that not many people get to be part of, and to see that happen, not just performance wise, but the culture, the type of people, the way that we handled our business, the way that we lived our lives. Loyola baseball used to have a reputation that was not good, just as human beings. Yeah. And now I feel like it's total opposite. The group that we had at the end there was really a special group, not just of good baseball players that were good at playing baseball and training for baseball, but good human beings, good people that really were close, that did things the right way, that cared about people, that cared about each other. And that's what made it so special, man. And so that culture that culture change was such a big culture change and such an amazing experience. So what do you see were like the key things that made that happen, and what's your perspective on the culture change and how we did it?
So, I mean, if you go back and look at the rosters that we had, say my first 2 years, where we're bottom of the league. Everybody thinks it's a crapshoot of a weekend. You look at that lineup and you look at kind of the numbers and everything, and it's like top to bottom, those teams had some athletes. Like, do not get me wrong at all. Like, they had some absolute raw talent top to bottom in that lineup. And it was like, what's the difference? It's like, where do you go from a team with talent that's does not perform to, I would say, 3 years in a row, starting in 2020. I graduated in 22, obviously the year after you. But it's like, what's the difference with those 2 years that has talent, the back 3 years that has talent, but one went to a national tournament, obviously didn't do too well. The next year, you get walked off in the bottom of the ninth with a 3-run home run and a 3-2 count with 2 outs. All you need's one more strike and you're going to the World Series. It's like, where's the difference? Where's the disconnect there? And I mean, that all started with how we prepared and what we did beforehand and having people bought in. And it was like when Coach Bruce and Coach Kennedy came in, like from day one, and I remember like being taken aback by this. It was like our very first team meeting. It was like, it's got to start with respect, and Coach Kennedy was like, we're not going to go anywhere first off until I can earn your respect. And it was like, to see someone at the helm like that have that much humility from the jump was something we never had, and that immediately grabbed so much attention. Was like, this dude's not coming in here and expecting us to just do cartwheels around the outfield 14,000 times just because he said so. It's like, I'm going to come, I need to earn your respect first. And that was such a huge, like, okay, all right, let's go, and then it was like, now where are our goals? It's like, it was never make it to the tournament. It was never win a World Series initially. It was like our mantra that year that like we had a full season and we made it to the tournament. And I know you probably know where I'm going with this. I see you smirking a little bit. It was earn respect, 2 words. We had it posted in the locker room. We had it posted in the dugout. And it was like, that is what we're going to do. We're going to earn respect of our opponents. But in order to do that, I need to earn your respect as a head coach. You need to earn respect of yourself as a player. And that was such a huge different look of life. And that's where like kind of our mindset really started. It was like, we're going to earn respect. How do we do that individually? How you go about your business in the classroom, how you go about your business in the weight room, how you go about your business on the field. Once we figured out, hey, we're pretty dang good, there's our respect. All right, let's go prove it. And we go and we take 2 out of 3 from the number 4 team in the country. We sweep a team that has been to the World Series the last 2 years, and it was like a huge flip. It was like, okay, now people are starting to talk about Loyola in a different manner. Here we go. Now everything's clicking, and that was such a huge thing for us because we took it step by step. And I've always kind of looked at life this way. It's like, you can't, like, this saying is like, Rome wasn't built in a day, it's brick by brick. You can't build a house without that very first brick, and then you add a second one, then a third one. It's like, you do really good on your test. That's brick 1. You hit a new PR in the weight room. That's brick 2. You go 3 for 3 in the inter squad. That's brick 3. You get your first collegiate hit. That's brick 4. And it's like, those things just keep building, building, and building and building. And it was really such an awesome thing to see everybody just completely 1000% bought in, and trust that we had in our two coaches was, I don't know if there's a program. I mean, I'm sure there's people that'll say I trust this guy with my life, but it's like being a part of that. You want to say that the trust that everybody had for the guy next to you, the guy behind you, the guy in front of you, the head coaches, it's like that amount of trust and respect for yourself was kind of what helped us propel into an area where who cares if you go 0 for 4, right? We just be the number 4 team in the country. What was our goal? Earn respect. Did we earn respect? You damn right we did. And I remember we had a game that we're playing another top 10 team in the country because, I mean, the Southern States is an absolute powerhouse in the NAIA. Like, we played and still is one of the toughest conference in the NAIA year in and year out, because there is at least 5 teams nationally ranked every single year. And odds are there's 3 that are top 10. The year that we keep referring to, there was, I want to say 6, and 4 of those 6 were in the top 15 in the country. It's like, that tells you the level of competition that you have. It's like, if you can't believe that the guy next to you is getting it done, and if he can't believe in you, it's like, what's going to happen bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, win and run on second base? It's like, if your respect doesn't start in the weight room, it doesn't start in the fall. It's like, how is it going to translate to the spring? And it was such a absolutely phenomenal atmosphere to be a part of, because once we started earning respect of others, then it became fun again. We weren't pressing to perform. We weren't pressing to improve our standings in the conference. It was like all the success that we have was a subset of those 2 words, which is just so crazy to think about, that like we weren't trying to win baseball games. It's a crazy thing to say. It was like we weren't measuring success based on a win-loss ratio, a batting average, an ERA. It was like, do we go prove that we are someone to be reckoned with? And it was like, that was step 1 of rebuilding that program. And it was like, you continuously see 3-4 years removed, it's like how we're being talked about on national media and on Twitter and Instagram and on all these polls and everything like that. It's like, you see that like this culture has continued on, and it's so easy to like just look back and say, it's like, yeah, I mean, we had some dudes, man. We had arms that could continuously throw strikes. Like, you were a guy out of the bullpen that everybody relied on. Why? Because of your work ethic. You did everything the right way. You respected yourself. You respected your teammates. You respected your time. And it's like, every single person on that team respected themselves, respected each other's time, respected the practices, respected the workouts. And it was like, being able to have that respect, like confidence kind of followed that respect, if that makes sense. And it was like, I don't respect you, I don't have confidence in you. Oh, I respect you, you're a dude, let's go. I know that you're going to get this done. And so that was probably one of the coolest things to see. That was like how simple 2 words can kind of completely change a team full of raw athletes into a team full of professionals. And that was something that Coach Bruce really, really harped on, of how to be a professional and how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your body. Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you recovering well? And having someone that played professional baseball, and his arm was his money, and it was like, if his elbow's not good, he's not putting food on the table. And he's like, he told us how big of a stressor that is, but how important it was to take care of your body. And it was like the little things, from the fuel that you're putting in your body and how big of a thing that sleep was. And it was so many different things revolving around being a professional and earning respect, and it was those 2 little things that I think really, really turned this program around, and still continues to do. And I'm so excited. I know we have one of our best friends who is a grad assistant there this year, and now that Coach Bruce is coming back, man, I mean they've got such great minds in the coach's office now, and it's like those four guys, Coach K, Coach Bruce, Coach Hansen, and then obviously Coach Gabe now.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And Tucker's coming back too. He's gonna be a grad assistant now.
and Tucker coming back, and Tucker is a phenomenal example of how to do things the right way, and having the privilege of I lived with Tucker for 2 years, and I've known Tucker since we were in middle school. Like we used to do hitting lessons together, and obviously he was a few years behind me, but it was like seeing like that maturity level grow. I mean, the people that are in that room, I couldn't expect a better five guys based on mentality and how they carry themselves. I'm so excited to watch them next year, man. Like they've got all the pieces at the helm together, and it's like if this new team is kind of bought into what those guys have, because all five of them bring their own level of expertise, and it's so diverse from five different angles and five different experiences, and it's gonna be fun to watch. I'm so excited. It's awesome to say that I'm proud to be a graduate of that school now. Talking to a lot of different people like after the fact, and it's like, yeah, I went to Loyola, and they had whenever they did that kind of news article on us, and they had old players like kind of reach out to us, and I know two reached out to me, like Alex Lorenzo, who's littered in the record books at Loyola and just an absolute freak of nature in the box. He did so many great things for that program, but he was in a culture that was kind of like, I hate to say it, it was really a losing culture. It was, we're here to get our degree, we're playing baseball on the side. Looking back, it's like, I wonder where he would be now if he was in the type of environment that we created because of how good he was. You see it in
It
the
would have
record book.
elevated him.
I
Yeah.
mean, 1000%. And it's like he reached out to me after the fact because he took me on my visit my senior year of high school. And so he reached out to me after that, and he was like, "Thank you for making me proud to graduate from this school now." And it's like, to hear that, that's the biggest testament to how this culture is, what this culture has become, really. For someone that's been removed from the program for 6 years, 7 years, who's in the Hall of, I think
Yeah,
Luis
he
in the
is.
he's in the Hall of Fame.
Alex is in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Us in the Hall of Fame too. For someone who's in the Loyola Athletics Hall of Fame to say thank you and like your program for making this, just making me proud to have played there, proud to be a part of kind of a building block. I mean, what he was able to do was kind of a huge goal for a lot of our athletes. It was like, that's the guy we want to chase. We want to chase the Alex Lorenzos, the Luis Anguizzolas. Like, that's who we want to chase as a hitter. You know what I'm saying? And to hear that from guys, that kind of brings me back to like the greatest achievement in college was making that program better than what we found it. And hearing that from a third party that has absolutely no idea what's going on in the clubhouse, what's going on in the dugout, it was just absolutely awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, it was special what we did, man. And um, yeah, dude, I think those first few years, I wasn't proud to put on the jersey that we were putting on, and it's very frustrating to be part of that team, part of that culture, and to leave it the way we did. Where I feel so proud of Loyola, and I'm always watching, like I'm always following, watching all their games, like locked in on what's going on with that team. I don't think if we would have left the culture where it was and had the last couple of years that we had, I don't think that I would feel the same way about that team. And so now to be so pumped about that program, that culture, what we left, the mark that we left on it, the what we built and what's being continued, like what's continuing to be built. It's really special, man. And yeah, like you said, earn respect was such a big part of it. Because when you earn your own respect, you develop confidence. When you earn the respect of others, they develop confidence in you. And like that confidence, I talk about this a lot, is like baseball, it's a team sport, but it's also characterized by a bunch of individual battles between pitcher and hitter. And that battle, I think a massive part of it is who's comfortable, and that comes from confidence, right? Like if you're confident, you're gonna feel comfortable. And so when you earn your own respect and you have that confidence in yourself of the work that you've put in, you can just go out there and compete. You're comfortable. You're just enjoying the competition and allowing the performance to just be a byproduct of the respect you've already earned from yourself. And then on the other hand of it, your teammates have confidence in you and everybody else in that clubhouse. And so when you're out there and your brothers are confident in your ability to get the job done and everybody around you is confident in you, that lifts you up. And then on top of that, when you're in the box and you have confidence in everybody around you, your teammates, the guy behind you that's hitting behind you, that totally changes your approach, because now you don't have to be the guy all the time. You can just go out there and compete and just keep passing the baton. And I think that's what made us so special, is a different guy was coming through every day and everybody was contributing, and we weren't relying on, one guy in the lineup. And that, took a little bit of pressure off of guys like you, Alan, Squid, Payton, to have to be the guys in the middle of the order. We had a bunch of those guys that you guys were just able to go out there and compete. Everybody was able to just go out there and compete, and everyone was going to pick each other up.
Yeah, it frees you up, man. Like that's a huge thing that, I struggle with. I know like everybody that truly knows me as a baseball player knew how mental like I could be at times, and after that second year that was just really demoralizing. Like you brought up the fact that you were kind of dreading putting on the uniform. Like there was a point like in the summer, like after my sophomore year, it's like, do I want to do this still? Like completely removed from obviously the things that I was able to do my last 3 years, but it was like there was a point where I didn't know if I wanted to play baseball anymore. Something that I've done since I was like 5 years old, since I can hold a bat in my hand. It was like that was my life. And I was contemplating like hanging it up. It's like I'm not enjoying this. I'm not having fun. Put too much pressure on myself. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it was like having guys that you could trust that would pick you up. Like I was so blessed the year that I did really well, that I had a dude who stole 30 bags in like 20 games hitting in front of me, Brandon Duhan. I had the leader in every single offensive category that you could possibly think of in the Loyola record book hitting behind me. Behind that was a Division I transfer. Behind that was a Division I transfer. After that were 6 dudes that we have spent countless hours in the class together, in the weight room together, on the field together, that I trusted with absolutely every single thing that I had. And I always put so much pressure on myself to feel like early on, especially, that either Alan and I had to get the job done. It's like if I didn't get on and he didn't put me in, we weren't scoring that day. And that was such a huge thing to consume someone who at the time was definitely not mentally strong enough to handle that type of pressure. Like my first at bat, my first start in conference my freshman year, I had a golden sombrero. Why? Because I faced 95 from a 3/4 slot and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I remember looking absolutely stupid. It was the first time I've seen 95 with a wipeout slider and a dude that just painted every single pitch that he had. We faced that those last 3 years still. And it was like the work that we put in before, falling back on that training, not feeling like I have the pressure on, if I don't get this done, we're not gonna score. And being able to play so much freer and just enjoy it. Like those last 2 years, I probably smiled more in 2 games than I did the first 2 years of my career at Loyola. And that was a huge thing for me. It was just obviously like I'm a huge analytics guy. Like I love numbers. I loved watching arms before we played them and talking with different hitters about what we saw, what he liked in different counts, yada, yada, yada. But it was like
as soon as I got in the box, and whenever that kind of culture change of like just earn respect, and the mind shift changed of I don't care if I get a hit or not. It was like sitting down and talking with Coach Kennedy. He was like, how do I define success in the box? And for me, instead of turning it into I need to get in scoring position so Allen can hit me in. If I don't, I suck. Those back few years, it was like I want to find a barrel. All I wanted to do. If I grounded out to short, but I hit it 104 miles an hour, W in my book. If I hit a 104-mile-an-hour screamer down the right field line, I get a triple, W in my book. If I hit an absolute piss missile to center field and it's caught and the dude doesn't move and I pretty much just threw him a strike 320 feet away, that's a W in my book. It was like it took hit, no hit out of the equation, and success was that I hit a ball hard. That's all you can ask for, because I mean, baseball is such a hard game where you ask somebody to hit a round ball with a round bat square 3 times out of 10. It is an extremely hard thing to do, and it makes it even more harder when you've got a lefty on the mound that's an All-American that's throwing 95 with 3 inches of arm side run, that can throw a split change on a dime, that has a curveball that's also working for a strike, that starts at your eyes and ends at your ankles. It's like, where do you simplify that for yourself? And it was like my version of success definitely wasn't the guy in front of me or the guy behind me success. You know what I'm saying? It's like you said, it's those individual one-on-one battles. And it's like, how do you get comfortable in that situation where it's like, I'm not pressing to get a hit right now. I just want to hit the ball hard. It's like on that back end, like when I started hitting really, really well, especially against good pitching, it's like I stepped in the box and I had the routine in the box. I'd kick the dirt back and forth, like knock my cleats in the ground 3 times because like my number was 3 and I was pretty superstitious. I still am, So I did everything in 3s. I did a triple knot on my shoelaces. I like fixed my glove 3 times, whatever it may be. But like I had that routine that first off made me comfortable. Like you said, like I was comfortable in the box. And then I was such a head case of like trying to think of, what do I have to do to get this run in? I need to get a hit here. I need to do this. I need to do that. No. Once I figured out what success was for me, and that was a barrel per se, or hitting a ball hard, once I got in the box, I was physically saying out loud, and I probably aggravated the hell out of some catchers those last 2 years. And I was physically saying barrel, 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 over and over and over and over and over again throughout the entire at bat. It's the only thing I would say to myself. And it was like, it calmed me down. It simplified an extremely difficult game. It gave me a purpose of what I wanted to achieve. And like, you're not going to hit a ball hard every single time. But it was like, I'm now expecting success in the box. I'm not waiting for it to come to me. I'm going to get it myself. And that was a big thing that Coach Kennedy like preached to the hitters. It's like, go hunt. Don't be defensive. Be aggressive. And I know you can take that on the mound too. It's like, I'm going to attack this dude with a fastball in his hands and get him uncomfortable and then pop a slider on the outside corner 3 inches off the plate. Strike 3, see you later. It's like that killer mindset, not only in the box, on the mound, at shortstop, in center field, wherever it may be. It's like, once you get off your heels, which I think where a lot of the culture change like kind of shifted us off our heels and put us in attack mode, and we're go, 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 go. I'm going to earn respect. We're not going to wait and hope that they respect us after this weekend. No, we're going to go get it. And that was, now I'm kind of just rambling, at this point, but I mean,
but that was huge, man. It's like we shifted the mindset to like essentially from victim to victor, right? It was, I'm not going to be a victim of, and we used to talk about the umpires are against us, this and that, whatever situations, the wind, whatever. And when we change it to, no, we are going to earn respect. We're going to go get it. We are good enough. We've put in the work. We're going to go get this win. We're better than this team. We're going to be in attack mode. We're going to be in control, despite the odds, despite if we were actually better or not. it totally shifts everything because it puts you in a position where you're confident, you're in control, and the other guy is uncomfortable. And I think that's a massive part of winning is who is comfortable and who isn't comfortable.
And just
Um,
controlling what you can control too. Like you said, you can't control what an umpire zones is. Like you can't control a call in the field. Like we're in the NAIA, we can't sit here and tap our ears after we get thrown out at second base for a review. It's like, what can you control? Your mindset, your attitude, how you handle failure, and everything like that. And that's a huge thing with baseball. It's like, especially in the position that Loyola is in the NAIA, we don't have the luxury of all these things that you see on ESPN. And it's like you don't really have that in high school either, because I know a lot of high school guys listen to this too. It's like you don't have that instant review unless you're playing at IMG. It's like having the ability to just take the guesswork out of an umpire's hands. That was a big thing that I remember us talking about a bunch. It's like take the question out of play. Just go strike them out. Just go hit a double, so you don't have to slide at second base. And that's what
yeah,
came that killer mindset. It's like we were prey for years. I mean, this program has been prey for borderline since it was created. And it was like we turned into a predator, and
yeah,
it's like predator to prey. It's like, what's the difference? It's like, I'm just trying to survive. I'm curled up. Don't beat me too bad. To, I'm going to go whip your ass.
yeah, yeah. I remember that last year, if an umpire missed a call on me and he didn't give me a strike, it was almost a guaranteed out
Yeah.
because that put me in a mindset that it was like, oh, okay, you're not gonna give me that. All right, that's it. I'm not missing a spot for the rest of the at bat. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be obvious right back after you. Um, and part of that was I mean I kind of took a little bit of crazy mindset. I was a little bit nuts, but I needed that, and I feel like that's so important. Is like having that almost like delusional confidence, not delusional, but like an overconfidence of like, all right, like, you know, I'm in control. It makes such a big difference where you're able to flip that switch and put yourself in a mode that it's like, all right, like I'm not gonna miss a single spot. Like I'm gonna execute everything. And then when you don't execute, not taking that as, this emotional response and just allowing it to drive you to. And one of the things I did a lot is like if I missed a spot on a pitch I needed to execute, I was going right back to it. I wasn't shying away from it because like, oh, I'm not going to miss that twice, and that comes from the confidence you have in the work you put off the field. But let's say it was an 0-2 count and I needed to throw a slider and I was way too far off the plate. I was like, all right, the next pitch, like I'm not gonna bow down, and pull back. It's like, no, I'm gonna be the dominating force here. I'm gonna execute that pitch. Let's go right back to it because I missed it, I almost have even more confidence that I'm not gonna miss it again.
Yep.
And I feel like that's such a huge part of playing. It's like, how do you have that? How do you build that confidence in yourself and your ability, and to where when things don't go your way, it's like an automatic, like, okay, now I'm even more locked in and the chances of me succeeding are even higher.
Jack, and like
Yeah,
that's another huge, really, really good point. It's like, especially in baseball, it's like, how do you deal with failure? And like, I was a young teenager that did not handle failure well. When I was in that mindset of, I need to get a hit, I need to get a hit. My success is based off of the three numbers that follow the letters BA, and it turned into, how do I mature mentally and how do I hit a reset button to get back to normal? And your reset button was extremely different from mine. Mine was different from the other 8 guys in the lineup. It turned into a huge joke because like played with so much emotion. Like I always had so much emotion on my sleeve, and I always got fired up when I got a big hit per se, or made a big play, or when someone else made a huge pitch or someone else got a huge hit. It was like I let all my emotion out, and
I let all of my negative emotion out in middle school and high school, my first 2 years in college, that just didn't show much emotional maturity by any means. And like when I say it turned into a joke, it's like, you remember the trash can very, very well. And it was like, if I made an error or if I struck out on a pitch that I didn't need to, it was like I'd go put my batting gloves or my glove in the trash can, and then everybody would like just start laughing, like, what the hell is this dude doing? But for me, it kind of made light of the situation. It was something that made me laugh, and was kind of like a huge reset button, like where, oh, it's not my fault, it's the bat's fault, and it kind of like reset to me, like, okay, I'm good, mentally, I'm good. It's the bat's fault, whatever, I'm good. And then it turned into like a huge thing, like the last like year or two, where if I struck out, it was like somebody that was a pitcher that wasn't in the game would go grab the trash can, put it right next to the dugout for me to put my bat in like immediately after, and everybody's starting laughing, and that I felt, for me, I guess, seeing it from like a perspective of everybody, whether they were making fun of me or not, which they probably were, because I was a head case, I was an emotional hand grenade waiting to go off, at all times. But it was like, even in a big situation, like just to see that and see the dugout, like just have like this huge sense of relief, because I got a guy behind me that is first in everything. Like, we're cool. We're good. This dugout's so good. We got confidence in the next guy. I got confidence in the next guy. I hit my reset button real quick. We're ready to go. And it just, I felt like that action kind of turned into like kind of a symbol of relief, for everybody, because it took the stress out of the situation for a lot of guys. Cause I know a lot of people were laughing and like joking about it, but they might not have realized it. But I felt like, looking back on it now, it was like the dugout got less tense because we were laughing, and it wasn't like we're not locked in, we're joking around, like we don't care about what's going on, it was kind of like, we're good.
Yeah, we're having fun while still competing fiercely, competitively, and being locked in. Just because you're competing and locked in doesn't mean you can't enjoy the game around you and be okay with failure. That doesn't mean not being competitive and just allowing yourself to fail, but it means, hey, when you fail, this is a game of failure. It's part of it. All right, on to the next. And yeah, and I think, you had built such a great, in those last couple of years, you had such a great way of handling that and succeeding and getting yourself locked in and getting yourself in a place where you're able to succeed. And not just that, but also the way you led the team, and you definitely became a clubhouse leader and team captain. Part of that came from your performance, of course, but a lot of that came from your ability to lead and bring the best out of the guys around you. And so, like, how did you handle that responsibility, and what were your focuses and strategies to be successful in that role?
Well, I never really took it as like an extra role or any added pressure, and I think I had the pleasure of working alongside. I mean, I keep talking about him, but I don't think any of my success at that level would be possible without Alan, and we played together for a summer right before I got to Loyola, and so I kind of knew of him because of his name. And then from 2018 to 2022, whenever we both finished up, it was like the only time I didn't play catch with him, and he wasn't my throwing partner, was when I was hurt or when I was dealing with something, and he was my workout partner for 5 years. And I mean, I'm 5'10", 5'11", maybe with cleats on, 180 to 200 pounds at any given time. And this dude's 6'4", 240. He's deadlifting 700 pounds. It's like, I'm not as strong as him. I'm not as powerful as him. I'm not this, I'm not that. But you know what that did? It kind of gave me a competitive edge. We talk about competitiveness and having it in all assets of your life.
Alan and I, throughout our entire undergrad career, like we were both on the track to go to medical school. That was a competition. It was like we helped each other get better. We took anatomy together. We took our chemistries together. We did everything together. We threw together. We worked out together. We hit together. I learned from his swing. He learned from my swing. I learned from his mindset. He learned from my mindset. And the list goes on and on and on. But when you like talk about like leadership and like those early 2 years on, and I know he talked a little bit about like that pressure of if I don't get the job done, like we're not going to score runs. And like that's kind of how I felt too. And so I don't think either of us necessarily wanted to see on our chest. I know we don't have that, but just metaphorically speaking, and I wasn't necessarily a vocal leader, like my vocalness came from my emotion. Like if I got a big hit and I'm pumping up the dugout from second base, or I score a huge run and I'm coming in the dugout getting everybody fired up, where I felt like I did a lot of my leading per se was how I went about my business. And that was kind of a subset of how Alan went about his business too, because I feel like both of us were kind of placed into that role of these are the guys you kind of want to look up to. And we never really thought of it that way. Like I didn't really, not really, I didn't treat anybody as like lesser than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where a lot of leaders kind of fall into that trap is like, I'm better than you. You've got to do it the way I do it, and it was never either of us asking someone to do something they didn't want to do. And it was like, if you're in a position of leadership and it's like the guys under you, like younger than you, not necessarily under than you, because like I know all of us thought of each other as equals and as family, as brothers. Like, it was like Coach K asked us to earn his respect. And, I think like subconsciously, that's kind of what I wanted. Like if I wanted to be a leader, it's like I need to show these guys that they can earn like, or that I can earn their respect too. And how do you do that? It's going about your business the right way, and it was workouts in the middle of the season and Alan and I are throwing around weight like it's nobody's business. And, I'm walking out of there feeling like I can't even move. I remember we were maxing out on squat. And I think we had a scrimmage that evening and I was trying to beat him. I had no business. Like I knew I wasn't going to squat more than him. Like he's going to squat at least 100 more pounds than me. This dude's got tree trunks as legs. But it was like, I'm going to go get him. I'm going to go beat him. And I remember like I got close. I think it was like, I say close, like I think it was like 50, 75 pounds under him. And I remember we had a scrimmage that day and I could not physically walk. Like I think I spent the next 3 days just jogging around the field while everybody was practicing because I had so much lactic acid in my body that I could not physically sprint by any means necessary. And it was a fun competitive atmosphere that I feel like I always found myself as a leader just leading by example. It's a Tuesday, dog beat hours of the spring. We just played 4 games and we've got an inner squad off a machine, but I'm still going to give you 130,000%. And I'm going to expect that out of you. It's like, it was kind of like an unwritten rule in my mind. It's like, if I want the guys next to me to bust their ass and get us to the point that where we want to go, why are they going to do that? Why would I expect them to do X, Y, and Z if I'm not doing X, Y, and Z 100%? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if someone's not necessarily leading vocal, like they can still lead by example. And that's something that I always prided myself on. It's like, there was a point, like my 5th year, that we're like in the fall, like the last week of the fall or something like that. And hit a ball in the gap and it's like I stretched it into 3, and Coach Kennedy brought that up after the fact. And that's kind of where I realized that a lot of these guys are kind of looking at how I handle my business, and it's like, sure, like I've been someone that's contributed to this team and has proved that I can put up some numbers, I've got no business stretching a fall inner squat off a machine, ball in the gap into a triple, head first slide. I can easily just pull up, easy double, hope somebody hits me and I can jog, but it's like, if I didn't stretch that into a triple, like if we're talking broad speaking, if I didn't stretch that into a triple, how would I expect the guy next to me to stretch that into a triple? And it was like, that's kind of what I expected about everyone around me, and I know you could probably talk about it from a third party perspective. Like I know like a pitcher is not going to go in there and hit in the box, but like I know that action right there is going to be seen by everybody in there, and it's going to kind of light a fire under their ass necessarily. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. It's like, if I'm technically in a position of leadership and I'm not acting like I'm still fighting for a job, it's like, how can you expect someone who's physically fighting for a job to buy into what you're doing if you're going to say X, Y, and Z? Oh, I'm bought into this program, I'm bought into this mindset, and you're not going to go and do it. Your word means nothing. It's like, I've always been a person in life that it's like, it doesn't matter what you say, it's what you do. It's the actions that matter. So it's like, I can sit here and say that, see y'all at 6 a.m. We're going to work out. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Hey, get to the field 2 hours early. We're going to hit. But if I say, hey, we're going to have a pretty much a pre-practice at 10 o'clock when we have actual practice at 12, if I'm not there at 10 o'clock, who's going to go? If you're someone in that position, excuse me, but it's like, I feel like a huge part of leadership is backing up what's said, if it's even said. A lot of things can be kind of left unsaid, and you just go put in the work and do it. It's like, if I can, in my head, in that specific point in time, if I can do well in class, if I can show up early, if I can do this, if I can do that, and I can still compete on weekend, why can't you? Does that make sense? I'm not trying to sound,
Totally.
but
Yeah, totally. I think that's what the best leaders do. And, it doesn't have to be vocal, and the best leaders aren't necessarily vocal. It's about the action that they put in, the work that they put in, and earning respect. Because, and you kind of mentioned, like, from a pitcher's perspective as well, like, you see a guy working their butt off and then performing and busting their butt on the field. It makes you want to work harder. It makes you want to perform better, and it elevates you, because now you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the guys around you. And it's so much easier to sustain that than it is to sustain doing it for yourself. When it's about your team, your brothers, so much. I talk about this a lot. It's like my mindset out there and what fired me up, my driving force at the end of my career. And it was so much easier to sustain. I was able to have full seasons where I was peaking in the playoffs. It's like, my mindset was, give the people what they want, and it sounds kind of crazy, and maybe I was a little crazy, but that was sustainable. Whereas when I was thinking about, like, I need to do this for my performance so I can get my career to the next level, I need to do this, I need to perform this way, I need to earn this job, I was burning out easily mid-season. And once it became about my team and about winning and about what I could contribute in the role that I was, that totally changed the sustainability of my performance. And I was able to elevate my performance even more, because I felt like I was able to focus so much easier. And it's easier when you're in a culture that wants to win. And that's the importance of building a culture, finding a culture, because when you don't have people around you that are all pulling in the same direction, it's hard to want to push yourself for those guys. But when you build a culture like that, and everybody's working in the right direction, in the same direction, everybody loves each other, so much easier to push and get after it.
yeah, I mean, you said, like, give the people what they want. It was like, when you change that point of why am I doing X, Y, and Z, it's like, what filled the tank for me in the past when I was mentally immature was getting a big double, and it was like, it shifted to where, like, say you're in a position of leadership and you need to go address somebody with something, which, like, it's always going to happen at some point. It's like, I remember Coach K saying, it's like, if if I were to go talk to like a different player or something like that, and they don't have my respect, they're not going to listen to me. Like they're not going to. And it's like we talk about respect so freaking much, but it's like if I couldn't prove like in a certain situation that I'm willing to do this, how can I go and ask someone that's not necessarily doing what we think as a collective group, like what our standards are? What right do they have to listen to me? Absolutely none. And it's like when there's like self accolades that drained you out, drained me out because like we weren't performing and it was just absolutely miserable, like whenever it shifted to that where like I'm expecting everybody around me to go 1,000,000%. It's like what filled my tank? You asked me that after the fact. It was like I think I got more fired up like towards the back end when someone pushed a flare down the right field line into a hustle double when I just struck out like the pitch before per se. Like that filled my tank up more than a self accolade would. And it's like seeing the success around me was so intoxicating from you giving the people what they want, a huge strikeout, and you come screaming off the mound. That fired me up, and you're giving me what I wanted in a certain situation. It was like what I wanted was to see everyone fly around the bases, and I couldn't expect that out of anybody if I didn't set that precedent myself, or if Allen didn't set that precedent, or if Coach K or Bruce didn't set that precedent. It's like it's top down the tier system. You know what I'm saying? It's like I didn't get the hustle double. You did. Hell yeah, brother. Hell freaking yeah. It's like that. That was a success for me, like on the back end, which was that's what made me enjoy baseball even more. Was it's like it's the most individual team sport there is. Like you said, it's like I can't save you from 95 in the box from the dugout. Only you can. It's like, but you can save me from the absolute terrible at bat that I had before if you turn a double that a right fielder bobbles and you take the extra 90. Like that not only fires me up, but that's going to fire up the dude who's on the mound too. That's an extra run for him. That's some more cushion. It's such a beautiful game where something so individual can just affect so many different people at so many different levels and so many different facets of the game. I mean, it's why it's pretty biased, but best sport in the world.
Yeah, it is, man. I love it, man. I love it. So switch gears here. I do want to ask you about, so while you were at Loyola, you kind of served as a utility defender and played multiple positions. This includes shortstop, third base, second base, outfield. So what's your perspective on playing multiple positions? And how do you overcome some of the obstacles presented with being a utility defender and staying prepared at multiple positions?
Yeah, that was a challenge in itself, man. Like I remember at one point I was carrying around 4 gloves at all times. Like I had a third base glove that was a 12 and a quarter, I think, just for some extra range. I had my 11.5 middle infield glove. I had a first base mitt. I had a outfield glove that was 12 and 3/4. It was crazy, but it was fun, and defensively, that was, if you sit back and look, I mean, defensively was kind of my weak point of the game. And I don't know if the utility had something to do with it, maybe because like I was battling injuries, especially when I was bouncing around a ton, and you commit so much time to hitting or pitching. It's like you've got one thing to work on when you hit. It's for me, it was find a barrel, and it was very difficult initially, those first few months where I was innings 1 through 4, I was in left. Our shortstop came to pitch. I bounced around to the infield. We had an injury. I bounced to third. Like I remember I played 4 positions in one game in a conference series on a Sunday, and it was do or die. Like it was split 1-1 in the beginning. It was versus the number 8 team in the country, I think, at the time. And I remember I was a nervous wreck. I think it was the first time that I kind of had an opportunity to play those positions at a time. And, when you commit so much time to your craft on the mound or so much time to your craft in the box, it's like you would expect someone to commit equal time to that craft defensively as well. It's pretty easy to sit and take 1,000 ground balls, say at shortstop or at third base. But I found myself where I finally found a groove to where pregame, in order to feel confident in all those positions, it was like, which one do I enjoy the most? And I loved outfield. I loved just flying around. I love airing the throws out, and it was like I would always end in the outfield. And I'd start like one group at third, split time in the middle infield, and I'd finish the last two groups or one group in the outfield and finish on a high note for me, especially, and it was kind of mentally, it was like, I want to end defensively where I know I'm not like, it's my weak point. It's like, I want to end the happiest, sort of say. And, it was pretty time consuming. Like I remember right after COVID, like Coach Kennedy came up to me and was like, "We're gonna give you a shot at shortstop." And I was like kind of taken aback. So I was like, "I'm slow. Have you seen my fielding percentage, sir? Are you sure you want to do this?" He's like, "Yeah, let's give it a shot." And it kind of it took away a lot of like the guesswork out of it, because he was like, "We're gonna stick here and you're gonna figure it out," and it was failure after failure after failure. But having the ability to kind of stay there and get comfortable in that one spot was such a huge thing. And it's like you take defense the same way you take hitting or the same way you take pitching. It's like it takes time. You've got to commit, you've got to work on your craft, and I always thought that I was such a really good baseball mind, to where even if I was in left, I knew where the ball needed to go. And it was such a big relief too, especially when I was playing outfield, because it was like ball's hitting the gap. I know the plays and I know where the positioning needs to be. So I don't even need to look and see where these guys are. I know where they expect to be and that sort of thing. And it took a lot of pressure off, you know, being a utility. It was really, really, really cool to not really limit myself to one area, and it was really, really fun to be able to bounce around and have that ability to. And it was kind of, when someone asks you to jump, you really say how high, it was like, you play outfield today? Sure. You play short today? Sure. You play third today? Sure. You want to play second today? Sure. It was really cool. Once I finally got in that groove of, I'm comfortable here. I played third base my first 2 years. I was comfortable there. I played second base first couple of years, was comfortable there, was really comfortable in the outfield because that's what I played in high school, and once I finally felt comfortable at short, it was kind of just, where you need me, where are we going, who's pitching today, where am I going to go, and it was really good to kind of have the ability to kind of anticipate that too, because I knew that, say our shortstop's pitching on Sunday, okay, Saturday I can take some time. I know I'm going to play infield, and it's a really cool opportunity for anybody out there who's a Swiss Army knife, and it's a really big statement, in my opinion, to have that ability to play multiple different positions. But you also don't need to neglect all four of them per se. I think if you're going to be a Swiss Army knife, you've got to commit some extra time to each position every single week, and looking back, I think that's something that I wish I would have done a little bit more, and I didn't really say Monday's going to be my outfield day, Tuesday's going to be my third base day, Wednesday short, Thursday second. So I'm good for the weekend. You know what I'm saying? And so it was kind of just like, wherever you need me, let's do it. I can do it, So I think probably the biggest advice for any utility guys out there, it's like, it's a really big responsibility. And I don't think I realized kind of the gravity of that responsibility until I was a little removed from the game, that I need to prep at all four of those positions. Like I'm starting at all four of those positions at every single day, if that makes sense. It's like, you don't take say I had 100% for a week, and say each week I put 25% at all four of those spots. But the guy who's just playing first base, he's giving 100% over there. Who do you think is going to be better? The first baseman, right? So it's like, it took me a while to kind of find a way to, I might not be able to give 100% at each four spots. It's like, but how do I give more than just dividing it equally? Because that never really made me a better baseball player. And that's probably one of the biggest things. You sit back and ask and look, it's like, where could I maybe improve? And it's like, I always go back defensively. And it's like, if I was expected to play at a high level at all four of those positions, why didn't you train like that? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Totally. And then I think that kind of brings us into the last question, then we'll wrap it up. So, one of the common things that a lot of athletes feel at the end of their careers is that they wish they would have learned certain lessons earlier than they did. What are the most valuable lessons you learned along the way that are important for young athletes to know before it's too late?
I think the biggest thing is learning what works for you the best. And I think I took too long to kind of figure that out. I mean, I battled with an ankle injury, shoulder injury, a hip injury that I had surgery on before the last year, and it turned into a kind of a grind just to be loose. I felt like I was a 70-year-old man in a 22-year-old's body at one point. And so something that kind of shifted that gear that I wish would have shifted a little earlier was, I remember sitting on the couch watching the 2019 Masters, and Tiger Woods, after battling all the injuries that he had, he had a really awesome, like, kind of post-round interview where it was like, yeah, I didn't really shoot too good on the range, blah 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 blah. I mean, the dude went on to win the Masters, and they're like, so do you normally hit good on the range? Do you normally hit bad? Do you take that to your rounds? And he's like, well, he asked the reporter, he's like, what are you doing on the range? And the reporter goes, warming up. And so he goes, after every range session, I sit and ask myself before I go play around, am I warmed up? Yeah, I accomplished what I wanted to do, and early on, I think I realized this maybe a little too late. It was my pregame BP. It was like, if I didn't hit good, I took that with me to the game. If I didn't feel good, I took that with me to the field. It's like, you fall back onto your work and your practice and the respect that you have for yourself, and that confidence that you have the killer instinct to succeed. It's like, why are you taking your warm up per se as a gauge of how you're going to perform, you know? And so that was a huge thing that I kind of saw maybe a little too late after the fact, but that was something really cool that I think a lot of like young athletes can kind of take that with them. It's like, especially pregame, it's like you can have all this confidence during the week, and then your pregame BP and you're facing a big arm, and then you can't hit a ball out of the turtle, and you're just demoralized. And then you follow that up with an 0 for 4, and you're like, well, what the hell happened? You took the negativity with you. Are you loose? Are you warmed up? Yeah, okay, I'm good to go. I had a great week. Let's go. Who cares? Flush it, you know? And that's kind of another thing that goes along with that kind of mental maturity and accepting failure, that it's going to happen. But um, I think that would have kind of benefited me a little more if on any given morning, if I weren't hit good pregame BP, or I made a couple errors before the game, that I wasn't like, oh, I can't feel a ground ball now. Oh, I can't hit a baseball now. Are you loose? Does your body feel good? Yep. All right. Who cares? Move on. Let's go. Let's go to work. So I think that, and just, man, enjoying it. Like I started smiling too much way too late, having all that pressure on me. I took kind of the professionalism a little too literally, per se, and it's a different story, obviously, for someone who's playing this game for a paycheck and to put food on the table for your family and provide, but in that situation, especially in high school and early on and college, like it's a kid's game, man. Like, enjoy it. And even if you're not going to succeed the way you expect to or want to, it's like, especially if you're playing college baseball, it's like the percentage of high school athletes that go on and play at the next level, it's slim to none compared to the US population, man. It's such a blessing that's severely overlooked, and I overlooked it with a lot of the pressure that I had to perform, especially on myself, and just enjoy every single second, man, because like I said kind of earlier, I'd give everything to go up and stand in the box and swing and look stupid for 3 strikes and go sit right back down. I'd give it all up again, man. Like I really would. And it's just, it flies. Enjoy every moment that you're in, live in the moment, compete, get after it, and just smile.
Totally, man. Totally. I totally agree. And I feel like that elevates your performance as well. And I felt like the biggest change that I made that last season, when I really broke out and had like a really good full season, was that I was just going out there enjoying the game. And I developed that mental maturity to know, all right, like I'm Alex, the individual who does all these awesome things. And I also happen to love playing baseball and enjoy baseball, but baseball wasn't my identity. I wasn't putting all this pressure on myself to succeed. I was just going out there having fun, competing, enjoying the freshly cut grass, the conversations, hitting fungo, talking crap, and of course, competing fiercely and competitively and being locked in. But it wasn't about my performance and all this pressure anymore. It was just about going and doing what I love. And my performance was totally elevated by that.
Yeah. Don't forget about why you started playing the game. Don't forget about why you continue playing the game. Why? Because you love it, right? It's not, you're not going to be judged at the gates with your batting average or your ERA. It's you're going to be judged by your happiness. And I found happiness in sports and was privileged and blessed enough to be able to compete at the level that I did. And not a lot of people can say that. And so having that ability to kind of self-reflect and look inward and just be like, am I having fun? No. All right. How can we get back to being a kid?
Totally. Yeah, totally agree, man. I think that's a good spot to end it off on, man. It's been a pleasure having you. I think we talked about some really awesome stuff, really insightful stuff. I'm glad you're able to kind of share with our listeners a lot of your experiences and insights. So everybody listening, hopefully you can get something out of this, learn and take it with you and make it your own. So for all y'all, stay fearless.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Stay Fearless, the Fearless Sports Performance Podcast with all things baseball performance training. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, like, subscribe, comment, reach out to us, and keep the conversation going. You can check out our website at fearlesssportsperformance.weebly.com, and you can find us on Instagram at Fearless Sports Performance or on X at FearlessBSBL. Until next time, stay fearless.